Hello, hello. Welcome, friends. We're still having a lot of people that are joining in. So we're going to take a minute here to let everyone finish getting in. And while we are having a lot more people join, please do take a minute in the chat to introduce yourself and let us know where you're joining in from today. Speak
Right
of
up
the
chat.
chat too. I'll take this moment while we're having a lot of people join just to cover some housekeeping items. So if you're new to joining events with LeadIQ, take note there is a chat window on the right-hand side. Connor Kraus on our team will be master of the chat today. I see he's already on it. And thank you, Connor. So throughout the webinar, if you've got any questions for our lovely outbound experts that are here, feel free to drop those. We do have some time planned for Q&A at the end. We might not get to everyone's question because we have a ton of content that we're excited to cover today. But if we don't get to your question during the live stream, we will follow up with you individually after and start a conversation. And if you had a question for a specific expert, we'll see if we can get you guys connected. So I am seeing the joins slow down a little bit. So I think that we can get started here. Before I do see this question, oh, I already did see the question. I always do. We will send out a recording tomorrow to everyone that registered. So if you need to leave early, don't worry. We're going to make sure this gets in your hands. And for anyone, if you have teammates that signed up but weren't able to make it live today, they'll also get that recording link as well. We've got a really fun lineup for you and just a great group of folks on the call today. Get excited. You will see some polls coming up in the chat too. We'll actually kick off with a poll question to get a quick lay of the land. Since we're talking outbound sequences today, we want to see what sales engagement tool are you guys using? And if you're not using one right now, or you're using something that we didn't mention, feel free to pick other there and throw out what you are using in the chat. Excellent. Thanks for your responses. I'm still seeing people answer a little bit. A lot of outreach and sales loft users. We've got some people in the chat already using Gong Engage, which is cool to see. I know that product's still in beta. And we've got a team member from Gong on today. So I know he'll be excited to see some representation there. All right, we'll call it here. Looks like pretty even use between outreach and sales loft, but outreach got a slight edge today. So we will be using the term sequence instead of cadence for the rest of the event. So today we are talking all outbound sales sequences, which by our definition is a structured set of touch points that a rep will use to connect with a prospect over a set period of time across a lot of different communication channels. Email and phone typically carrying the most weight here. And for a lot of our prospects and customers that we talked to, when we got together and talked about putting this panel on, there were really 5 key elements that we wanted to consider when building and optimizing sequences that we're planning to discuss. And we're actually going to let you guys decide where we start today. So I'm going to throw up another poll here to see what you're most interested in learning about. So the 5 things that we're planning to cover are sequence length and touch points, crafting a compelling subject line and crafting compelling emails, effective CTAs, and questions to draw responses. The 4th, value props and tailoring to different personas. And that last one on how to measure and improve your sequences. We're getting a lot of hype on running strong emails and subject lines, which is funny because we tentatively already put that into the first slot in our lineup. So we were thinking you guys might say that. So this is probably where we have the most content for you. Awesome. And we're seeing some answers spread out across all the other topics. So don't you worry. We will get to everything in the next 15 minutes. So let's start off, team, on that crafting compelling subject lines. And before we really get into the meat and potatoes here, I do want to introduce everyone that's joining me today. So as you guys introduce yourselves and give a quick background, why don't you also just start off with your number one piece of best advice for thinking about creating sequences that drive a lot of conversions? If someone had to leave after the first 10 minutes of this webinar, I want you to think about what's the one thing that you would want them to take away. So we'll start with Jack.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name is Jack Doheny. I'm based here in Denver, Colorado, and I'm an account executive. over at Inveterate. We're a memberships tool for Shopify merchants. And if I was to say the best piece of advice when it comes to email outbound, I would say the power of the PS. So utilizing PS, so right underneath when you do your signature sign off with either a relevant piece about that person or something that's really compelling about your value proposition. And the reason I think that's a super powerful tool is that it gets your name above the fold when you're sending out an email, helps build a little bit more familiarity. So when you do that LinkedIn follow up or when you make a call and say your name, you've got that much more of an opportunity to have your name there. So I will pass it over to Nate now.
All right, there we are. Hey, Jack, appreciate the introduction. Hey, everybody in the crowd. I'm Nate Robbins. I'm a director of sales and business development over here at Gong. I've been in tech about 8 years now, primarily in high growth startups. And my biggest piece of advice in one word for an outbound sequence is going to be consistency. Consistency, not only in putting people in, but also following the sequence structure. What I've seen most people only get 4 or 5 touches in before they drop off. And data shows generally that it takes 6 to 8 touches before you really get that highest conversion rate before then you're then wasting time. So doesn't matter how great of a sequence you've got, if you aren't taking it all the way through. If you aren't, you're definitely leaving conversations and pipeline on the tables. You got to finish those sequences out. And I will give it to Brienne.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I'm super excited to be here, guys. I'm Shelley. I'm a mid-market account executive over here at LeadIQ, also based out of Denver, Colorado. Shout out. I have been in sales for a number of years now, but I actually originally come from the content marketing world. So I've been nerding out over sales emails since day one. I'd say my number one piece of advice is to constantly be A/B testing and keeping up with trends and keeping up that research. I'll be sharing a lot of current advice that I have today with you all. But one thing to know is that I'm constantly checking on my reply rates, my open rates, my click-through rates, and I'm reiterating almost on a weekly basis. So I think just following thought leaders on LinkedIn, reading blog posts, and attending webinars just like this one is a really great piece of advice and something that I do on a very regular basis.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you all. So as we get into emails specifically, actually, I'll call you out, Mac, in the chat. The thing we wanted to start with, what we got in the emails, was subject lines. You make a really good point that if you can't get them to open your email, all of the content that you work so hard on throughout your sequence is not going to matter. So I would love to hear from you, Brie, since you talk about testing and iterating so much. What do you do when it comes to subject lines to make sure your emails are going to get opened?
Yes. So this is definitely something, again, that I'm constantly iterating on. But I will say I have a sequence right now that I think has a 67% open rate, which I'm pretty proud of. And what I use there is I tend to inform my subject lines based on the individual level of personalization I'm doing on each email. As I'm doing my email outreach, I have certain templated emails that I'm sending out based on persona, based on account and industry. But I'm also going to do a level of personalization on each email, whether it's on the LinkedIn bio, 10K report, something along those lines. And so typically my subject lines are informed by that piece of personalization. And I like to keep it really short, maybe sometimes 1 word, 2 words, maybe max 3. And I also like to use all lowercase letters. Would love to hear everyone else's take on this. The reason I do that is really just for pattern breaking. People are really used to getting a lot of emails from marketing and all sorts of different sources that have capital letters. So I just do all lowercase. And again, always iterating, but I find it's really been driving up my open rates.
Awesome. I love the personalization component also because me coming from more of a marketer demand gen perspective, if you send a ton of emails in a row to the same company that are all templated and look exactly the same, you're way more to get caught in that company's spam filter. So thinking about having some small personalized component to each person is going to make it more likely that your email is going to hit their inbox in the first place. Do you guys also personalize, Nate, Jack, or is there anything else you think about when it comes to subject lines?
I'm a huge believer in the 2-word subject line. I think that's really powerful. I think the more simple you can make it, the better. I remember the days of donuts in the break room, and I think those have long since the sales.
Yeah, I've heard CTAs said something about giving an example. Does anybody want to share an example of a subject line they've recently had success with? I can say the great unknown is one that I had recently used on a couple of emails that got a pretty good open rate. it had to do with something that the person had in their LinkedIn bio.
Because I see this in the chat, I might be throwing out a hot take here, spoiler of more to come, but quick question. I probably receive at least 10 or 20 emails with the subject line, quick question, every single month. That one's definitely starting to lose its impact on me because I see it so often.
Yeah, quick questions, one that I remember had a high success for a long time, but the times we'd used it, I noticed that you get a good open rate, but you didn't necessarily get a good reply rate. They'd always look at what the question is to got the curiosity, but still missed the relevance to the email. As long as your subject line has some kind of relevance to what you're actually sending out, people don't like being bait and switched, and they'll just not respond on principle.
Yeah, I like a good balance of driving some intrigue, but not being so off the wall that it's just, I don't know, kooky or totally humorous. Or I think sometimes you can lose a little bit of credibility there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's what I'm going for. Just something that's related to the email and the personalization that makes them say, what is this about? And then it's still related once they open it up.
Yeah.
In the body.
Personalization in general feels like the biggest topic in cold emails right now. Like, how do we do it? How do we do it at scale? Where else do you guys put personalization in your email? Or like, how do you manage to do it to every single cold email that you're seeing without blowing your metrics out of the water?
I definitely use LeadIQ's scribe tool. As somebody who comes from content marketing and I used to write for a living, I was a little bit skeptical at first, but it is seriously just a great time saver on the research aspect. And then I'm able to quickly make a couple quick edits and get it out the door. I'd say that's definitely helps me be able to personalize every email. And I'm also personalizing like second emails too, the ones that are bumping up my first one. Typically, the first email I'll do like a LinkedIn bio or 10K, as I mentioned. And the next email might be like mentioning something they posted on LinkedIn. But having it all right there definitely makes it easier to do more personalization.
Yeah, I agree. I use the scribe tool a lot in the sense where it calls out maybe if that brand or that person was featured on a podcast. That can be a pretty compelling one too for, hey, like I had a chance. And it also allows you to like maybe quickly listen to some gems in there and utilize those in your outreach too. Hey, I heard you mention X, Y, and Z. So that helps you go a little bit of the extra mile there. It is definitely a little bit tougher on the scalability side. So I save that more so for those really prime prospects that I definitely want to get in front of them. And then in addition to that, the scribe tool is pretty helpful from just like an AI generation perspective. So you're able to utilize it and essentially prompt it to find other relevant things that are also relevant to your value props. And I've noticed that it improves over and over again. I know AI is like a hot topic right now, but it's already built into LeadIQ. So I use that pretty frequently as well.
Yeah, just to throw my 2 cents there as well. I think that a lot of these language model technologies have really done incredible things for us as prospectors. It's taken a lot of the time that maybe takes to build out a good broad-based template. But I always tell my team, like with great power comes great responsibility. Can't forget, why we exist as prospectors and what our value add is. And it's incredibly important, maybe more than ever, that we're taking the time to really do that unique insight, that unique outreach. The baseline of our messaging has leveled up significantly with some of these models. So I feel like no matter how good our prompts might get, whatever the data we have is, we can't just accept that whatever spits back at us is good enough and move on. It's really important that we continue competing for that inbox space because it is getting tougher and tougher to break through. So it's important you don't lose the heart in your prospecting and the messaging.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That I think about a lot of like sales AI in general, like tools like our Scribe that help you with AI writing for your cold emails of like flying a plane. Like you've got a pilot there. There's a lot of technology in place if the plane is going to be on route most of the time, but you still want to have a pilot behind the wheel in case something goes wrong. So it's not something you want to set and forget and not have that oversight to tweak it. So would be taking a little bit of customization there. And we'll drop it. Some people seem like they're asking a little bit about what Scribe is since we've referenced it a few times. So we'll drop a URL in the chat for you to go to our website and just check out that particular capability page. And I'll also have a plug up for a demo later. If anyone does want to see it in action, we'll be happy to schedule a quick call with you to show you more. So when we think about, go ahead, Jack.
Just got another quick, if you don't have something like the Scribe tool, another great area on a prospect site besides their LinkedIn to find some more personalization you can add in is in like the company about profiles. So In my industry, I'm more in e-commerce. So it's very easy to find that brand story. Maybe if you're more in like B2B SaaS, that might be a little bit different, but that's a great way to find a lot of good personal notes based maybe on the founder or maybe on why they started that brand in the first place, to utilize that in personalization too, for either in your openers or in that PS that I mentioned earlier too.
Yeah, that personalization component of calling out something my team has done recently, as someone leading a marketing team, if you reference a recent event that we did or a recent blog that we did and said that you engaged with it, I'm probably going to check out what you're saying just because of my own vain interest in being like, oh, what do they think about? What do they think about what my team's putting out there? The marketer in me also comes in wanting to talk about email deliverability and what things are going to get you straight to spam jail. So personalization, as I mentioned before, that is going to help you avoid spam filters, but there's also some trigger words that you can think about avoiding in that first email. Anything that is like too much on the urgency side of, hey, click here, do this now. I've got a limited time offer for you. Anything that sounds a little spammy is likely to get you caught in that spam trap. I also highly recommend avoiding that you put any links or attachments in that first email. Maybe you have some great case studies or some great things on your website that you want to lead prospects to. I wouldn't do that the first time you're sending an email to someone, though, or you're more likely to just get caught in a virus filter and not make it to them in the first place. And one more big one, if you're not using a sales engagement tool that does this for you, do make sure you include a note under your signature or an option for someone to unsubscribe. That's going to help you not only adhere to privacy laws, which boring but important, but it's also going to make sure that if someone doesn't want to receive communication from you, then they're more likely to just give you a quick reply and say, hey, I want to unsubscribe versus dragging you to that spam folder. And someone dragging you to the spam folder is like kiss of death. You're going to make it harder for your entire organization to get in anyone's Gmail if you're doing that.
I think deliverability is a big problem for a lot of people, and they may not even realize it just yet, because with the addition of these language models, like, it used to take time to build out messaging and sequences that were at the very least related to the persona, maybe the company or the industry. That's now done in 5 minutes. If you have a good prompt, and you can plug it in and fire it out to everybody that it might be relevant to, which just further exacerbates those chances that you're getting drugged to spam. Taking the heart out of messaging, it's really tempting. It's really easy to crush your email metrics. It's a good short-term solution. You get a lot of responses, but it's in the long term, it's going to kill you.
Yeah. Outside of deliverability, anything else from you guys that you think about when you're writing a really good email?
I'd say like thinking about the person on the other end. What do they care about? What are they currently thinking about? What matters most to them? Like the way that I've built out sequences is doing it based on the industry and then based on the persona, and then personalizing that each individual level for each email I'm sending out. For example, if I'm reaching out to a CRO or reaching out to a BD manager, there's going to be different messaging involved. So I think what's really going to get their wheels turning and make them feel inclined to respond is something I think about. And making it more about them than it is about me as much as possible.
Fully agree with that, Brienne. I don't know who here is a Josh Braun fan, but I absolutely love the guy, consume all of his content. The you to we or I ratio should be at that 4-to-1. It's got to be about the prospect. You have to deliver some kind of social proof that's relevant to the person you're speaking to, not just hey, here's a great case study that highlights us, but why it actually connects to what their assumed issue or problem may be. It has to be targeted towards a niche group of people. It has to feel like it's supposed to go to them. And then the more expensive for the problem that you can address, the more likely you are to get a response. So try to make sure you understand what the most expensive problem is that you're trying to solve for the person you're messaging, and use that as your value prop. And then obviously less than 60 words is.
Yeah, I was going to ask about length. Less than 60 words, everyone in agreement there. Do you have a character limit also that you implement?
Yeah, one thing I'll add just on a formatting perspective for word count and character limit is keeping in mind what's considered the F shape, the prospect's reading pattern. So most people, when they read an email, they'll read pretty far into the first line, and then they'll skim shorter and shorter as they're moving down into the email. So making sure that the first few lines of every line of text that you're sending out are as impactful as possible, related to the customer, talking about them and their problems, and then also some type of business impact too. And understanding that again, think of it in an F shape. So longer, shorter as it's going down consider that when you're formatting your emails, as that's really how most people are reading them.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big one. I love that. I think about a lot of like website stuff that way too. So why not put that into your emails? So the next thing we wanted to cover was just sequence length and touch points. So starting off, moving here, let's talk about the diversity of touch points. How are you thinking about the different communication methods you're using? How heavy are you on each one? Jack, what do you think about this?
Yeah, sure thing. So on the diversity aspect of it, when we think of an email sequence, I don't want to ever think about just the emails that we're sending out. You want to also have different mediums of touch points besides just an email and a personalized email. One thing that I utilize a lot, and I'm sure people are familiar with, is video inside of an email via whether that be a Vidyard or a Loom. But I think one piece of video content that people don't leverage enough is native LinkedIn video. And when I say native, not utilizing one of these tools like to screen share, but actually on mobile, recording a video via the LinkedIn, a vertical video, and then sending that as a first or second touch in LinkedIn messaging. So you've already sent out that connection request. They've accepted the connection. And I'll typically just send, maybe if I'm out on a walk or I'm even at my desk somewhere like this, 10 to 20-second video intro that, again, is just native on the LinkedIn app. And so that stands out a bit more than what's typically sent via, let's say, a Loom or Vidyard, where they're getting a GIF preview. It's a lot more personal, and it's clear that you're making that video just for them. And it's not just like a spray and pray type video that's more generalized. And I've gotten good responses from it. That's, I think, the biggest thing. I've had a better response rate and impact from that because it's a little bit novel right now. So I know we've got 142 people here. So that's a bit of an immortal technique that I'll send you off with there too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I think it is important, and definitely don't want to take over, but I feel like it's really important you have a variety of avenues to connect. There's more ways to reach out and connect with people than ever before, more channels to do it in as well. But something to me that I feel like is really crazy, and it's super controversial all over LinkedIn. You got people on both sides. Definitely going to sound a bit old school here, but people just don't call enough still. I really feel like it's an overlooked method. It's people just assume it's dead. And I feel like it's because it's a harder skill to master. So people are quick to dismiss it. I know there's other recent challenges with like spam stuff like that popping up, but I've been part of teams that are very call heavy in their sequencing. I've been part of teams that are not call heavy at all. They're very call light. 10 out of 10 times, I think the call heavy teams are going to outperform. And I choose to be on a call heavy team. I mentioned before, the language models we mentioned, they make emailing at scale much easier, but email becomes less effective when everybody can send out so many good emails all the time. And then things like Gmail's recent verify the sender to accept the calendar invite before it even shows up, that kind of stuff is making it even more difficult to communicate in those means. And I'm sure there will be other things to follow. So a huge believer that picking up the phone is still a highly effective strategy. There's no faster way to have a conversation with a prospect. And at Gong, we have an incredibly high phone call to op creation conversion rate. And in my humble opinion, from the perspective of a BDR or SDR, there's no other way to ensure you're really preparing yourself for the life of an AE than to get on a call with the prospect and have a sales conversation. Put yourself in a situation.
I know Brie can attest to at LeadIQ. We still book most of our outbound meetings through phone calls as well. And we're talking a lot about voicemails lately and having that voicemail script nailed down, making sure you can keep it short and sweet, under 30 seconds, but you're able to get in a quick value prop and what the next action you're going to take is, particularly since more and more people are just reading their voicemails in the transcribe mode on your phone. On a lot of phones now, that's like popping up while the voicemail is still being left, so they can take a quick look at whether they actually want to take the call or not. So we've been really hitting hard on practicing that script and that talk track here.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't agree more. I think it's just having a good balance of all different activities. I think one leads into another and being able to, again, put a face to a name. So then, like we were talking about personalization with email, I think overall in sequences, the way that I typically structure them is I send out a LinkedIn request, letting them know, hey, like asking if they're involved in the pipe gen strategy, letting them know I'm sending over an email. Immediately after I send over an email, reference I sent them over a LinkedIn request. And then after that, I would call them and reference some of the personalization that I did and some of the research I did on the email. Tying it all together I think another huge aspect too is a lot of time people are sending out these LinkedIn requests, but one thing that's been really impactful, I know for Hannah, the SDR that I work with and myself, is the moment that we get a connection request where somebody accepts, as soon as we can send them a message, we try to message them immediately, thanking them for accepting our request, and then shooting them over like a personalized note, showing that, hey, we're not sending out a ton of LinkedIn requests. We're actually looking to speak with you personally and putting in that extra effort, because I think timeliness is also important. If they accept your request, they're probably sitting on LinkedIn. They're probably going to respond to you. I might even give them a call at that point too, just because it shows that they might have a moment of downtime where they're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call out too, when I just consider like triggers to make me do another sales type prospecting event too. So when I'm making my calls, because I agree wholeheartedly, I get a lot of my business from calls. I still pick up the phone every day, but I'm only typically picking up the phone and calling prospects that I'm seeing clear engagement with. If it's a big heavy hitter prospect, maybe I'll do a call with low engagement. If I'm seeing a prospect that's opening a lot of emails and engaging with content, but just not replying, that's a perfect opportunity to make the call and reference that too. So yeah, that's been pretty impactful for me as well.
Yeah. And everyone over here at LeadIQ does outbound prospecting from all the SDRs. After we're hitting the phones, we're sending out LinkedIn messages, sending emails, and trying to do all sorts of activity together.
Yeah. I know some things that we haven't hit on yet that are usually pretty big questions on webinars of this nature. Like, how long should you go in between steps and how many steps should you have total? In terms of total number of touch points for your sequence, I think that's something that you've got to test over time and look at your own company. And when you start to see those reply metrics fall off, when you're not getting open rates on the later steps in your sequence, that can be a sign that you're running that too long and doing metrics that aren't helping you move the needle. So that's something you should tweak over time. I think it's going to look a little different for different companies. But what do you guys think about timeline between steps? What's too frequent to reach out to your prospects? What's too far in between to have it be a cohesive story?
I'm happy to jump in on this one. It might be an elementary or implied point, but I still think it's important when to fill out. So there's the steps of the flow of the cadence. And I know we're speaking specifically to outbound cadences here or sequences. Right? It should differ based on what the goal of that outbound flow is, right? Are you trying to nurture or warm an account that you're planning to target later, or are you probing into the account to gauge if there's any interest broadly, or are you dialing in on a specific person or team with a high touch, more manual action sequence? I think that's the first thing to establish is what is the purpose of the sequence. Once you have that, the answer to that question will also influence things like the tone of the message, what content, if any, are you going to send, and where are you going to meet your prospects at? Does a LinkedIn video make sense in this one, or is that too big of a lift for something we're trying to accomplish? So I think first establishing what the purpose and the intent of the sequence is critical, rather than just saying what's the best sequence out there, because you have to think of it as a tool belt. You have different ways and touch points that are built specifically for a certain type of reaction.
Yeah, that's a
So I have to start.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I was gonna say that's a great point. I think it segues nicely into like our next topic of the most effective CTAs and questions you want to ask to get responses in sequence. I think that's also going to rely on what type of sequence or what goal you're trying to get. But Nate, what do you think when you're thinking about the call to action or the question that you're putting in each step? How do you approach that?
Yeah, again, we'll definitely be based off of the purpose of the sequence. Are you just doing value add or asking? But if you're going to go in for just a traditional, what do you think on CTAs? I think it's important that you first off measure, never settle for good enough, always be iterating, ABC testing, everything all the time. But something again that Josh Braun is big on is you should ask someone if they're open before you go in for a question for time. So the this or that or the either or type of closing, I feel like it's transparent. It kind of boxes people in. People generally don't like that. But there's a psychological effect to asking somebody if they're open to what you just shared with them, or open to exploring what you've just laid in front of them. Most people don't want to not be open. People want to be open in their lives and professionally or personally. So even if it's something that's even just remotely interesting or helpful, the timing may be wrong, maybe not pressing or urgent need, but people still want to be open. And ultimately, our CTA is to elicit a response. All of our emails are to elicit a response. It's a positive one. Not always about booking time today. It's not always about getting it off this month. It's about planning for future months so you don't have to chase down your number at the end of every month. It's important that you just get a response. Once you get it, I'm open. I feel like we can work with that. And we should be able to take someone who's open and turn them into interested.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. That was exactly what I was going to say. Jack, I don't know if that's exactly what you're going to say too.
Keep going, Brie.
Yeah, I'm just going to reiterate what Nate said. That's like something that I've always used, using the phrase open to. Are you open to a chat? Are you open to a brief chat? Open to learning more? And I completely agree. I think CTAs are a little bit too assumptive. Like, how about a call tomorrow at 3? Can go a little bit too far and come off maybe a little bit more like aggressive. I don't know if that's like the word I'm looking for here, but I think it's really more to elicit a response, to get someone to get their wheels turning. I think taking like a slower, more consultative sounding approach is where the open to comes from. And I've been definitely using open to for most of my
Yeah, and I
CTAs.
think it also depends a little bit on what medium you're on at the time. Because in an email, I totally agree. Always like the open to language. I'm probably never personally going to respond to an email that says from a stranger that says, "Hey, can we have a call tomorrow at 3 p.m.?" But if you get someone on a call, I think that's where you have a little bit more room to build that rapport and determine by tone if they're ready for that next step, and you could push a little bit harder for that meeting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I would add, when you make that low pressure ask, is this worth exploring, or are you open to this? Not then following with, here's a link to my calendar right after you make that low pressure ask, because then you're adding some pressure to that too. I always like to, when I'm doing coaching like this, remind people that our prospects know how to reply to an email. And so if the email is compelling, if it is relevant to what they're looking for, everybody knows how to reply to an email. So just really banking on that. If it is interesting enough, they will reply to it. And maybe if they're not replying to the email, you can catch them on a call, or you can catch them on LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah,
good.
I also see a question that I can hit real quickly here that someone asked. So, a make calendar link on first email. I say yes for two reasons. I say one, because that's a little aggressive. And again, I would try to avoid putting links in your first email at all. If that's not a company that you've engaged with before, if it's not a prospect that knows your brand already, because including a lot of links, making a link heavy first email, you're more likely you're going to get caught in spam and not actually get that message out. And Nate, you've mentioned something earlier that I saw some buzz in the chat around. And I also think it leads to one of the most important things when you're thinking about sequences in general is like A, B, C, D, E testing in some cases. Like the biggest thing you can do to make sure you're going to be driving more conversions is to be constantly testing and making changes when you're seeing that something's not working. So a lot of sales engagement tools that are, prominent in the market will make it easier for you to run different variants against each other. But you can also do this if you don't have a complex setup. You can have a sequence that is exactly the same except for one variable that are just mirrored of each other. And you could be running those until you put 100 people through each of them or through each step, and that turning point of like, where's the data starting to make a turn that's going to tell me that this is going to get me a little more traction than what I've been trying over here. So I would think about having a variable in almost every single step of your sequence where you're running people through that sequence until you're starting to see a difference in performance for one, and then taking the loser, getting it out and thinking of something else. But when I always guide people on how to test, you've got to think about testing one variable at a time too. You don't want to test two emails against each other that are different links, different value props, different subject lines. You're going to have no idea what's actually driving the stronger performance there. So when you do think about approaching your test, make the test small enough that you'll be able to determine what's causing the change in performance that you want to see.
Yeah. Just to quickly add in the calendar link, I would say not including it in the first email is really great advice. I'd say I've included it in following emails in my signature, just under my name, book time with me here, in later emails. And I've actually booked meetings that way because it's not really putting it in the body of the email where it's coming off. It's expected. It's sitting in the bottom so they can respond to the email or they can book time with you. And I've definitely had a number of meetings booked just from somebody clicking into my signature a later part in the sequence.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you got to reduce the friction to book a time, and maybe they're interested, but they don't want to write up an email. They just book a time. I think that's important to keep in consideration for sure. And I've had so much success. Just wanted to double tap on that for you, Bree. I think so.
Then,
Can I share one more thing on the measuring? Because I really think this is something that a lot of people don't do the right way. And it's something that people just leave a lot of data information on the table with this. I think it's also important to ensure you have a consistent framework that you're testing with. And this includes things like which flow or sequence you're going to be testing. How often are you going to go back and relook at the information, the data you're getting? How many prospects have to go through that sequence before you're going to make a call on which one's better than the other? And more importantly, what are you actually trying to measure improvement on? It's not just the overall sequence or flow performance. Do you care about opens mostly right now? Or are you focused on clicks? Are you trying to improve reply rates, positive reply rates? Could be op creation, or even for a marketing team, something like today, like maybe you're trying to improve the registration rate of people to go through or show rates. My solution for that is ensuring that you have a small committee, or we call it a tiger team, that really own this testing process. It's a couple people that volunteer for it, that are passionate about this and want to be involved in it. And they come together and build that format out. It's a regular sync. They know they all are on the same page. They're identifying which sequences to evaluate next, what good looks like, what better looks like, what perfect looks like before they move on. And then the fourth and final kind of big real key here is the data accuracy. You don't have to have a fancy system, but native reporting, in my experience, is pretty important here. There have been major frustrations everywhere I've worked at prior to Gong, and I'm sure some of you have similar frustrations with lack of intuitive or easy to use dynamic reporting within your sales engagement tool. You can only make as good a decision as the data you have allows you to make. Shameless plug here. This is something that Gong Engage aims to address in a big way. So honestly, I'll just stay tuned for more details on all that. But being able to accurately, competently, and simply measure the pieces of the sequence you're trying to improve on are critically important, because if you're making calls on bad data or not enough data, you don't actually know where you're at.
Yeah. I love what you said about having a tiger team. That's a great idea, to have a small group of people that are committed to this all the time. And when you're talking about getting that baseline for your data, made me think, I think it's really important to know what type of improvement that you want to see. So there are a lot of industry benchmarks out there that will tell you, like, your open rates and should be this and your reply rate should be this. But I think you always have to start at a baseline and say, this is what my data is today. So to test, I'm really looking for a marginal improvement. If my best reply rate on a sequence right now is only 15%, then I'm looking to get 18% on this test that I'm doing. And you can keep working your way up from there. But I wouldn't rely just on industry benchmarks to tell you if a sequence is working or if it's not, because it's going to depend on who you're targeting, what the competition looks like in your industry. So always just be looking to slightly raise the bar from where you're at today.
Completely agree with that, Millie.
And I think that we are so deep in this. I'm not sure we're going to have a lot of time for personas and value prop stuff. So we might have to hold another event, you guys. But something we were pretty excited to do. There are some hot topics in the space, things that we have seen that are pretty heavily debated in different sales communities. So we're going to do a quick round of hot takes and bring up a few things that we've seen strong opinions for or against. I'm going to give each of our panelists a single sentence to explain their, and we'll also.
Do we lose Millie?
Oh no!
Oh no!
No, you're doing great, bro.
Am I back?
She's back. She's back.
You hear me?
Yep, you're doing great.
All right. I might have lost my video, but I'm here. So we're going to throw up some polls for you to chime in on these hot takes too. So the first one that we're going to do is a breakup email. Yay or nay? Start with Jack.
So I'm into the breakup email in the sense of just trying to get better clarity on when this might be more relevant. So sounds like this might not be interesting right now. No worries. Any type of perspective to another good time to reach out.
Neat.
Oh, me. All right. It's I guess a hot take. So I'm gonna say generally for cold outbound, no. I think you haven't earned the right for them to give you an answer yet. They haven't responded. You haven't actually shown them anything of value, or they would have replied. And I'm just not a fan of guilting people or passive aggressive. I guess it doesn't matter to you. So I just trigger them into a value flow, and they'll come back around when time's right. But for cold outbound, I'm a no.
Okay, my hot take. I think it depends, but I think I like a good breakup email. Keeping it super short and sweet. And I usually, depending on the ICP I'm reaching out to, I wouldn't do this for everybody, but sometimes, since I usually reaching out to salespeople, I like to make it a little bit humorous, add in like a little funny like picture. When it seems like I'm barking up the wrong tree, I just put in a really cute picture of my dog. Don't really say much else. I've gotten a lot of responses on them, even if it's like, hey, really cute dog. Now's not the best time. But I definitely, since I'm selling to salespeople, I definitely will throw that in occasionally. I've gotten good responses.
All right.
Hey,
Looks like the audience was heavily in favor of the breakup email. So we had 90% of audience saying they like the breakup email. All right. Next, hot take. Should you include a note in your LinkedIn request when you connect, or should you leave it blank?
Always if it's somebody you actually want to talk to.
Yeah, I'd say, as I said before, I always put in a note for sure.
I'm going to say no. I never put in a note in my LinkedIn headline. And that's because I err more on trying to make your LinkedIn headline relevant for that person. So instead of it saying Jack Doheny, account executive at Inveterate, I have Jack Doheny, and our value proposition for our merchants is memberships for Shopify. And so that actually, we're in a relatively interesting space in that, but I found that to be really compelling because that piques interest in essentially a interesting space right now. In my industry, I never put a note, and I've gotten pretty good responses from that.
Yeah, all of these could probably be with the caveat of test this thing for your own company, see what resonates with your own audience. But the audience did lean towards no in LinkedIn requests, but I kind of align with Jack here, just thinking about which request I accept too. If you've tried to sell to me and you've put a really good message about your value prop in LinkedIn, I might have left you unread, and I'm sorry about that. And I also am very attuned to outbound prospecting working at LeadIQ. All right, next hot take. Intentional misspellings in a subject line or in any kind of communication to get noticed or see if it draws a response.
That's like, if I ever received an email with a misspelling or bad grammar, and I do sometimes, I would definitely discount it even more. And I'm just, I come from a writing background. That just isn't something I can physically do.
I will say I read the emails, but then you've lost your credibility with me. But it does make me read the email. It doesn't make me reply.
That's actually what I had here is like opens and aren't necessarily conversations. Yeah. Nowadays, we're sloppy.
The 6% of people that did say intentional misspelling would love to hear from you in the chat on how it's worked for you. All right, next one, memes and GIFs in outbound email sequences. Yay or nay?
I used to use them a lot. I don't anymore. I think they're a little corny.
I think there was a time, maybe a number of years back, where it was something that people were doing and it was working successfully. As I said, the closest I get is just a picture of my dog and a funny breakup email. And that's my max. Maybe an emoji here or there, but usually if I'm only in a conversation with that person already.
I love them because I just love humor, but I also know that probably not an effective strategy if it's a serious person you're prospecting. So if you're going to prospect me after this webinar, send me a
Wait, Jack, did you answer this one?
Yeah, I like I said, I used to use them a lot. I used to use them a lot in the PS. I don't anymore. I think that there is a case to be made of not including a GIF or a meme in your first email to avoid spam. And once you start to see that email is going through, there probably is a good place to utilize memes or GIFs, but I wouldn't recommend on the first touch. Make sure that you're getting past the spam filter before you start using any type of image or something like that.
Awesome. All right, last hot take. And actually, audience was more split on this memes and GIF. Last hot take would be gifting. Does it help?
Okay, gifting I feel like is a little bit has been overhyped for a while because I feel like everyone just defaults to the easy button with gifting. So send them a gift card, send them a cup of coffee, whatever. Like it's just okay. So I lean more towards no, except for when it's something that's really thoughtful, customized, and unique. So I think it can be very effective, but the way that it's broadly used, I think it's just it's inefficient.
I'd say no, not in cold outreach. If you haven't had any conversation with them at all, and you're saying like, hey, I'll give you like a gift card if you respond. Maybe a poll or something that would work, but not like, I don't know, a meeting. I don't think I haven't had success with it personally. I'd say.
I would say this is interesting. This is a different side of gifting, but we're experimenting with this right now on attacking like C-level execs and founders and things like that. really premium event invites instead of a gift. So that would be something like box seats to a sporting event or box seats to a very popular artist, like a musician or something like that. We're actually seeing a lot of pretty good results with getting engagement and then having those people in person. So I think that there is some sort of interesting overlap here with it is gifting in the sense that you're utilizing some type of event, but it's not something traditional where it's like, hey, I want to send you a wine flight or something like that. This is more like gifting them with an invitation to something really cool.
That's a good point. And I feel the same way, Jack. I think it has to be utilized in a really unique, cool way that's going to draw some attention to it. Just side story really fast. We did have some success at a company called HireView years back. A lot of people receive their application digitally now. We've actually sent out a bunch of floppy disks. So just a little, maybe a little bit of spark an idea for someone in the crowd. A bunch of floppy disks that had resume handwritten on it and a sticky note. Sent them in the mail. They showed up and we actually pulled some pretty big opportunities that closed for some pretty big deals doing something like that. So I think that if it's thoughtful and it's unique, it's not just the easy button $25 Amazon card for a 20-minute meeting. Like you can stand out with gifting. You can't be lazy about it, like with everything else in prospecting.
Yeah, I think that ties to a question we saw in the chat about what about for a trigger, like if they got a new position. Yes, I think if there are those moments where you can send a personalized gift and stand out, that's a lot different than just sending a gift that is that coffee gift card or Amazon gift card to take a transactional meeting. Similar if you actually engaged and built rapport with that prospect, where I've seen gifting pay off well, is if you took something unique from the background that you notice, like you see a lot of certain types of books on their bookshelf and you see they're into something and you follow up with that, or they mentioned that they were doing a big race this weekend and you send them something for running, that kind of stuff where you can say, I'm listening, I see you.
Yeah, I my job, I had success with that. There was a guy who had a really cute dog. He told me he got a puppy, he told me the puppy's name, and I sent over like a bark box. But that was like, we already had like a conversation going. It was more like the gifting I did at my last job was to more move the deal along rather than to like book the initial meeting.
This is one that you
All right.
one last thing on just because this threads into personalization too. You have to be very tactful, but if it's a really good prospect and they have public social media, whether that be TikTok or Instagram, utilizing that without being creepy, something that they might be into via social media, that could be an interesting way outside of just LinkedIn too. So that might be how you find some other like personalization related to gifting. Don't be creepy, but could be a good way to find out some other personal tips there.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of questions and we don't have a lot of time. I do want to give quick thank you, Jack, Nate, Bree. You've been incredible. I've learned a lot. I'm excited to get testing. I did pop up a featured action on the bottom. Although LeadIQ doesn't build sequences, there are a lot of things that we do that tie in to make your general outbound efforts and your outbound sequences more effective. We can help with contact data and syncing that to your sales engagement tools in one click. We can help with cold email personalization and with job changes and account tracking. So if you are interested to see more, if you're not familiar with us, definitely schedule some time to chat with one of our reps, one of our teammates, and we'll be happy to show you a quick demo. So I'll give that quick plug. Before I get into a lot of the Q&A, we might go a little bit over the hour here to get to as many questions as we can. So one that I saw is thoughts on reply in follow-up emails versus starting a new email thread.
I think you should use these tactfully. I think it's good to reuse to bump emails show higher engagement. They'll go back up. They'll see what you said. And it's almost like reiterating what you wrote before. So it's a good way to put some automation without having to get super creative in there to stay relevant in front of your prospect. But I do think you need to go through a couple of different variations of subject lines or new thread emails. If I had to just say, like for a typical cold outbound, start with a new thread, maybe a bump, maybe a third one, and then start a new thread after that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Another question we got was for smaller sales teams that have larger territories, any tips for personalizing is scaled? So I have a few of these. So I know that Bree and Jack mentioned that they are using LeadIQ to help with the AI piece to personalize at scale. Something else Bree said that I think is super important earlier is personalization, most important for your top target accounts. Think of your top tier as accounts that you're really heavily going to personalize. You might use some things that are slightly less personalized for your lower tier accounts to still be able to push out volume. Any other thoughts on how you're able to balance that line of personalization and reaching enough accounts at the same time?
Yeah, I think like using the scribe tool has really changed the game there. For those of you who aren't familiar, I'd recommend checking out a demo just to get your eyes on it. But essentially, the way that it helps is it just puts all the research in one place right in front of me. It gives me a draft to easily then either copy and paste and add to an existing template or to use as like an entire email. I think that just like I can send about 30 personalized emails an hour, whereas before it would take me much longer than that. And I think it's just because it puts it all in one spot, gives you a quick draft, then you just make a couple quick changes and you're able to ship it out the door. That's really changed the game. I used to spend more time on specific accounts or specific individuals, and now it's opened up for most people and follow-up emails as well.
And then another question here. Do you have any examples of CTAs that do not include links? And I feel like we were using CTA and question like interchangeably earlier. I know there was a lot of good discussion on just a question to say, hey, are you open to chat? I think sometimes in those early touches, that is the call to action. It's just like, hey, answer this question really quick and open that door for me. But what other CTAs do you guys use that might not have a link to take an action on your website or check something out?
I usually say this is more like the Midwestern in me, but like I say, open to talking shop. That's a fun one. And then curious your perspective. This is another good one that you can do a bit of an ego tap in the sense of you're sharing what you're doing to help other merchants or the brand or company that you're talking to. And just curious, like their perspective on it. If they want to school you on their perspective of XYZ that you're trying to work on. That's a cool way that you can just open up conversations. So it's less about, hey, I'm trying to convince you something. It's more so like, I'm curious what you think about X, Y, or Z in the space. Maybe I can learn something from you on that front. So having like a mentor-mentee perspective too is a unique one.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Also asking if you have a way you can quantify or you've laid out a customer story, someone who's improved something, done something better, which hopefully you've done that to your customization. Just asking if they're open to a better way to do whatever that thing is that you've helped others to do. Because again, it plays in the psychology of who's not open to a better way. Like everyone's open to a better way. If they aren't, they know they're lying to themselves. No one likes to do that. So if you can find a way to put some urgency on it without calling their baby ugly, so to speak, really effective way to go.
Awesome. Awesome. Next one. At what point in the body of the email do you introduce your company or your offering solution? That's a great question.
I sometimes don't. I sometimes won't even say inveterate. I'll just be like, hey, this is what we do. This is what we're helping brands with. Because I had a mentor of mine, similar to what we've said here. You almost want to like pique their curiosity and like then maybe they're sneaking into your signature a little bit more. So sometimes I won't even name drop the company at all.
It depends on if it's an educational email. Are you trying to educate them on who you are, what you do for the space they're in? Or do you have information to keep the email more about them? Yeah, observe this about you. I know that you're focused on doing this. Are you open to finding a better way to accomplish that goal? And if they are, then you get the right to introduce your company. But if you can keep it more about them as much as you can, at least in that first email, I think you're more likely to get a response because it piques curiosity. Like, how are you going to help me to do that? And then you get it. Then they've asked you to explain to them how you can do that for them. So I think it's important you only do it if you don't have really something good about them to talk about.
Yeah, I'd say both what you said. Definitely one of the things is that I like to do. And then sometimes if I'm reaching out to somebody who's like more about like the data side of things, I'll include some like recent stats from a POC that I ran. That's going to really just like resonate with them once they see the numbers, like improving meetings booked by 18% or something like that. Like hard hitting facts where I know this person cares about this and I'm going to give them this exact number to look at to pique their interest.
Yeah. And Nate, what you mentioned reminded me, we have talked about this concept a lot at LeadIQ of the different like personas that are involved in a sale. And a lot of people make the mistake of positioning their company as a hero. But when you're thinking about storytelling in sales, your prospect is actually the hero. You've got to make them the center of the story. And then you've got to be the guide. You've got to be there to guide them along, but you're not there to take center stage. And there's always got to be a villain to check out the LeadIQ blog. If you go a little ways back, we've done some extensive writing about this and nerded out over it.
If we get to be Obi-Wan, that's about it.
Yep. This was a hot take we didn't bring up that I almost regret. How do you feel about using emojis in subject lines?
I'd say no, personally. I think spam filters might catch that. I'm not exactly sure, but I've only utilized emojis when I've already had a conversation going with somebody later down the line. That's my take on it.
As a standard, no, but if you've done some research and you see this person loves emojis, then put some in there for them specifically, but don't build it into your auto-populated subject lines.
Yeah, that's a great one, especially if like maybe the brand is, let's just say it's a California brand that uses the sun emoji.
Loves emoji.
I saw Outreach did a study maybe a year ago that said they were using emojis and subject lines, and it caused them to like see a decrease of 42% in reply rates. I've seen some conflicting things for marketing emails where sometimes they help in marketing emails. I think you only use them if it's a direct tie to something you're saying. If you've got an emoji that helps clarify the subject line you're using, if you're just using it for decoration or filler, I don't think it adds a lot of value. And I do think we're coming to the hard stop of the hour. So some of our speakers might have to hop. It's totally okay. If you've got another minute, I'll try to get through a couple more questions here. And if we don't get to you, like I said, I will follow up with you after so we can make sure that everyone gets that touch and gets their question answered. So someone asked what size companies you get the most responses from.
Millie, I have to hop to a client meeting. Thank you guys.
Yeah, go for it. Thank you so much, Reed.
I do as well, Millie. Thank you so much. It's great being here. Appreciate the
Thanks, sorry. No, you're good.
Questions. Thank you, Nate.
Yep.
Thanks, Nate. See you next time.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hang out. I got a little bit more time. So the question was, do I see what type of size of companies we get the most responses from? Got it. So
yeah,
yeah. So I would take this as the approach of the multi-pronged. I talk about this with like different engines that I'm running at the same time. So the way that I approach prospecting with a very big company would be maybe I'm putting a more generalized group of folks in a more general sequence, and then I'm doing a little bit more heavy hitter action on some bigger people in that space. So let's say 5 or 6 personalized emails. If I'm sending like 10 to 15 relatively general emails, if it's like a company with over 10,000 people. For companies that have maybe 50 people and below, that's where I'm really only spending time doing personalization. And so the amount of responses that you get, you always get that random kind of lower level, less relevant person that might respond or even book time with you that allows you to open the door into those higher touch people. And so I would just say it's a proportion, not necessarily of where I'm getting the most replies, but where my energy is put for a different size. So if it's a very small, very niche company, I'm probably only going to do 5 people that I'm doing personalization, all of them. And if it's a large company, I'm still doing 5 to 10 personalized outreach to those people, but maybe I'm sequencing 10 to 15 other people that it might be relevant to in the company.
Yeah, good stuff. And I think we'll make this our final question, and we'll have some follow-ups to do. So how many follow-ups might be too many?
I would say if you're getting left on red, it's between 3 or 4. And when I say 3 or 4 follow-ups, I think about that as after you've continued to provide value in your outreach. So when you're sending out more relevant emails to people, trying to have some type of either coaching information or relevant success story information that you can keep sending out to your prospect. If you're saying like, following up on my last note, what are your thoughts on this? Or do you have any feedback for the note that I previously sent? If you're getting left on red 3 times when you're trying to bump up that last email that you sent, I think it's best to either try another option like a phone call or LinkedIn, or move on to the next prospect and revisit that prospect later.
Yeah. And I think number of touches can really depend on your industry. There are some sequences that I've run in the past that might actually be like 20 or 30 steps overall over a long period of time. But I usually look for that drop off in the data. And if it's from an email perspective, if the email open rates really start to drop off after a certain point in the sequence, that's where I'll start to look and say, hey, I'm really just wasting my effort here. I've never booked a meeting past step 15 of this sequence. So all of this kind of feels like wasted effort if it's not driving any engagement or any conversations past a certain point. So we take a really metric driven approach to thinking about how long our sequences should be. And just looking for that sweet spot too on the positive sides of the data, not just where do things go bad, but where's the optimal point when you do actually get engagement. And if that's really where you should be focusing on making sure you're doing the most testing is those steps that are most commonly getting you that conversation or that meeting or that next step. But for the 50 of you and to Jack that have stuck in here for the long haul, thank you guys so much. This was a really great time. Like I said, I learned so much. So we'll be sending out the recording tomorrow and we'll be connecting with some of you and really hoping to see you at the next one that we do. We might have to do a round 2 on sequences after we got so much content that we didn't get to cover. So yeah, thanks again.
I
Hope
have
everyone has.
just
Jeff,
for
go ahead.
for the last 48 people that are here, there's one little last gem that I want to share with you all. And that is the power of an out of office automated reply email and using that person's signature to find their direct phone number. That's my last little samurai technique that I will send your way. I have booked plenty of meetings from somebody with an out of office email, and that's where I secure the digits to set next steps. So thanks for sticking around your last 40. That's your last bit of nugget of gold.
Save your last tidbits for the people that just stick around. You had to stick around a little bit late to get the real secrets. And hey, if they don't include their phone number in their email signature, we could probably source it for you here at LeadIQ. So
Great
check us
point.
out. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.